Go.
We are live.
We are live. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I am joined with a special guest today. Took us a little while to finally get this thing popping off. We had schedule issues, and then I was out of the country. And in the meantime, though, you have been like all over the place. So I first saw you on whatever podcast,
hmm
and it was, I think it was like the first time I ever saw whatever podcast. It happened to be the episode you were on. It just popped up in my suggested videos or whatever. And you were like, to me, and I think I even messaged you this, you were like the only girl that was making any sense to me on that show. And so like I followed you on Instagram, and then we connected, and I did this question on my story. I was like, what kind of topics do you guys want to hear on the podcast? And so much of it was relationship, dating,
hmm
marriage, all that kind of stuff. And like, I can talk marriage because I'm old as crap and I've been with my wife for almost 2 decades. But when it comes to like today's
Yeah.
scene of, just the dumpster fire that is men and women relations and dating and all that stuff, like I have no clue. So I asked you to come on, and here we are. Angela Knight, what I guess to start things off, how would you describe yourself? What do you do? Who are you?
Well, my name is Angela Knight. I do a
Did I did I
series.
did I say the wrong name when I just said your name?
No, you said
Okay.
Angela Knight. No, you got it right.
Okay, cool. My brain is frazzled. The only reason I asked that, not to cut you off, is
Yeah, no
earlier
worries.
I was doing my research, reviewing some of your stuff or whatever, and I couldn't remember your last name, and I accidentally, like, I typed in Angela, and it suggested Angela White, and I was like, that sounds right, and so I clicked on it. Do you know who that is by any chance? Because I
um,
do now.
no, I feel like that. No, I actually don't know who that is.
So that is a prominent porn star, ladies and gentlemen, and I was like, okay, this is not the chick that's coming on. So I had to go to your Instagram, and I was like, Knight, not White. So that's why I was like, did I just say the wrong name? I hope I didn't just call her a porn star.
No, I don't know who that is, and that'd be scary if I actually knew who that was. Now that'd just say a lot of things
True,
about my free
true.
time.
Yes.
I thought it was an author for a minute there. I think there's someone who writes books with that names, but I could be wrong.
Some would say she's an artist, but I wouldn't. But anyway, all
Oh.
right. Who are you? What are you all about?
Okay, so my name is Angela Knight. I do various things online, from random relationship coaching to YouTubing, podcasting, commentating stuff, just a little bit of everything. And I'm fairly new to this space. And then the only reason why I'm somewhat relevant is because I say outlandish things, but I've tamed it down. I think, like Jordan Peterson said, you got to be an absolute monster and then learn how to control it. And I
Yeah.
think I'm at my controlled phase now, but it's gotten me pretty far. But I think like I'm really glad I stopped when I did. So that's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
you do relationship coaching, and that was basically the reason I reached out to you to come on and talk about this stuff because, man, it is it's a weird time in our history because we have sort of this synergy of a lot of things happening, technology and social media and dating apps. And I was having a conversation the other day with a business owner about employees. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, anytime I go somewhere and it's like a Gen Zer or whatever, they will not make eye contact with me. Half of the time they're on their phone and like they don't even acknowledge my existence. They're socially awkward. And I can only imagine that this carries over into like the dating world because everything's swiping on apps and stuff. And it's got to be tough out there if you're a young man or woman kind of looking for your person. And I know you talk to a lot of people about this sort of thing. So what, if you had to describe what modern day dating and relationships are like, what would you say?
So I would say it's a combination of pros and cons. First off, I used to just focus on all the negatives and would say it's a shit show. And as true as it is, there's also a lot of positives in it because I'd say like Gen Z, they they feel a lot, but they don't know how to express it. you know,
Mm,
and they have the option to express it. They just don't know how to. They're you know, just verbal diarrhea in all the worst ways. They're coping in ways where it makes, you know, millennials and baby boomers fucking hate them, which is it's unfortunate because it's like they have so much privilege and they don't realize it.
mm,
And I think what happens is like the older generation, we're projecting what we wish we had onto them. So it just makes us hate them, which sucks because it's like we're not in the right place to hate them. Because I think that there's positives in ways where we have to recognize that it's almost like when you have kids, you can't almost be mad at your child for being spoiled when you've given them that privilege to be spoiled. So in weird ways, it's like you almost have to build some sort of compassion or empathy to ask yourself, like, okay, I may not agree with the way you're handling, but what can I do about the situation? And I think that really changes when you understand to adapt leadership skills, whether you're a man or a
mm.
woman. And the leadership skill doesn't have to be whether in a relationship. It could be you're a manager or a CEO or a friend or whoever it is. Like somebody has to take the leadership role to do the right thing, so that those that are lost, those are coping, could see, oh, okay, I maybe this is the better way to deal with this. So I think that's really what we're lacking in this generation. Whether it's just people just scrolling on social media because you have this short fuse of constantly looking for dopamine, as opposed to before we didn't have that. Like I grew up with a flip phone, barely. And I worked a lot, like I was child labor at its finest. So I didn't really have the time to like indulge into the culture that we have now. So I really wasn't tainted by social media the way that the kids are. So did I
Right,
ramble
right.
off or
No, no, you're good. This is good. And you, just for people listening, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, no worries. I'm 28.
28, and I'm 35. So we're kind of, I'm like the top end of the millennials, I think, and you're
Like
considered
at
a
the very
millennial
end.
as well.
Yeah,
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 yeah. So I'm like the old millennial, you're the young millennial. Um, and it's the same for me. Like I didn't even have a phone until college, and it was because like A, we couldn't afford one for them to just get me a cell phone, and B, I mean, the technology hadn't even been around that long.
right.
And it's crazy these days. It's funny you say the thing about kids because I'm kind of dealing with that now. Like I'm a father. I've got one 6-year-old daughter and another one on the way. And and my daughter has a very good life. Like she has, she's got it made. And I have noticed in little instances where I'll just say, "Hey, go do that," or "Hey, go get this," or whatever, and I get a little bit of pushback because she's used to us doing it for her, and
Yeah,
that's 100% on us,
yeah,
and a lot of it is the whole, and you see this a lot from like the boomers to the millennials, right? Because the boomers are basically the parents of the millennials for the most
mhm,
part.
right,
Um, it's the whole like, my childhood was rough, so I want to give them a good childhood. And
right,
you work really hard and make a lot of money, and you give them this good childhood. And I actually recently heard Patrick Bet David talking about this. I think on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew
mhm,
Schultz,
right,
and he has this very structured, like, because the question was, when your kids grow up rich, how the hell do you make them decent humans?
right,
Because personally, most of the interesting, hardworking people that I know, like yourself, you said it yourself. I was child labor. I had to work. I had to do, and like, either had like a rough childhood, worked early, had adversity. And it's a challenge when you're successful and you got kids. And so Patrick was saying, I make them read a certain number of pages each day. They have to work out. They have to do this and this and this. And so I'm going to start doing some of that. But it is true. We have, we like to complain a lot about the Gen Zers. And, I was just doing that, saying they won't make eye contact with me or whatever. But I mean, they are the product of what we've created, just
right,
like you said, right? And
yeah,
I think it's funny, I've been with my wife for 17 years.
nice.
Dude, it's thank God for her, because I don't know why, she's like the sweetest, coolest,
Oh my
like,
god, I love
yeah,
hearing that.
she puts up with my bullshit, and if I hadn't found her, I don't know if I would have found anybody. But we met when I was 18, and it was like I knew she was the one. She was my first girlfriend, only girlfriend. We got married.
Oh,
That was that. And the funny thing though is like we got together in '06, and that was like right when Facebook first came out. And I met her on Facebook. It was like it was back when people would poke, and she poked me, and like I poked her back, and then we like met at a house party, and the rest was history. But so I'm not knocking using technology to meet people, but these days it's like so like sterilized. You just I've seen videos of dudes who will swipe on like 50 chicks, and I think it's something like, which one is saying yes? Is it swiping right? I'm such a dinosaur.
Swiping right to say yes,
Okay.
right?
So
Yeah.
dudes swipe right like something like 60% of the time, but women
Mhm,
swipe right like 5% of the time. So it's this
mhm.
very unbalanced dynamic. And it it's created sort of this landscape of a lot of men who feel disenfranchised because they can't find a woman, but I think a lot of that is because they're looking in the wrong place. And then a lot of women who sort of go for these fuck boys, for lack of a better term, because they're just swiping right on the best looking dudes or whatever. And I hear from a lot of young men, it's really weird. They like look at me as a role model. I'm like, when did I become that? That's crazy. But they're like, dude, what do I do? I don't even know how to find somebody these days because everybody, it seems like hookup culture is rampant, right? And so what would like, and I know you're in a long-term relationship as well, right? I think I
Mhm.
remember that.
Yeah.
So you haven't been dating or anything lately, but how the hell can somebody that's looking for a long-term relationship, the person they're going to marry, because back in my day, it was like you date someone for the purpose of finding the person you're going to marry, build a family with, very traditional. How the hell does somebody do that today? Sorry, I
Uh,
rambled too.
no, no, you're good, you're good. I think that it's important to realize, like, what era we're in, and we do have to recognize that everybody is, we're very privileged in this generation, so that it's almost like that everybody has a trophy mentality.
Mhm.
Um, so with that being said, I think it's important for people to realize, like, you're gonna have to bring some sort of value to yourself, that makes you stand up because at this point, everybody has the same privileges. And for example, you brought up the swiping thing on the Tinder and stuff like that. Yes, if we go off of statistics, the guys are swiping more to right than women, but why? Because the guys are looking for the easy access of sex. They're
Yeah.
not essentially looking for a wife. Women generally are looking for someone to be in a relationship with. So even though she's on that app that's essentially made for fun, even though people act like it's for, a relationship, they're all just looking for some sort of attention. So we really just figured out what the goal is. Why are you on the app? Are you looking for love or are you looking for fun? If you're looking for fun, don't complain about your consequences. Now, if you're looking for love, do you think you have what it takes to be in love or to give love? And a lot of people don't. They don't know how to love themselves. They haven't built anything for themselves. And people hear that and they think it's about building wealth. Wealth could be in various ways. It could be, what do you stand for? And a lot of people don't stand for shit. I deal with so many people in the spaces, and people don't realize, like, I used to only circle myself with people who work like me, think like me, talk like me, but then I realized, like, how small that circle is, and also you end up sitting in an echo chamber. You have to have a very big open mind about what you're looking for and understand and build compassion for other people. And I know I'm saying very broad, but essentially build value for yourself, because I've always been a workaholic and it didn't make me any better than who I am now. Um, but I understood that I need to bring some sort of value to myself so that others who are looking for it would be like, you know what, I want to work with her. I want to talk with her. I want to be friends with her. I want to be in a relationship with her. Whatever it may be, I people went to me so that I had the options of what I wanted in life. And my fiance did the same thing. And I think that this generation, they don't do that. They sit here and they complain about, well, I'm tall enough, I'm handsome enough, I'm hot
Mhm.
enough, I have a nice car, I make six figures. If you think that's the only metric it takes to be in a relationship, that's why you're single and unhappy, because it takes numerous things. Like, I think about, if anyone owns a business, like, you could have the best front desk girl, but let's say she sucks at customer service. She only knows how to ring someone up. Guess what? The next person that could do better than her will replace her. You have to be good at all categories because you can't just simply do your job. It goes
Mhm.
beyond that. So I think that's really what it is.
Do you think that because of our modern culture and social media, and especially this wave of, I don't know what you would call it. I know there's the whole red pill thing and, the whole world surrounding Andrew Tate, and, you know, there's the gentleman, I'll be nice, that you basically owned on the sauce cast. Um, there's that whole manosphere world, which to me, a lot of it is just like dude, it's I don't know. Again, I'm 35. I'm older. I've lived a lot of life. Like I said, I've been with the same woman almost 2 decades, worked, built a business, all that stuff. I wasn't focused on all of this crap. But lately I've just gotten intrigued by it, just like studying it because it's so crazy to me hearing some of the stuff that people say, like what you just said, like you got to be 6 feet tall, you got to make six figures, your dick has to be at least 6 inches long. And it's like, holy crap, man. So do
Yeah.
you think that and look, if you got all those things, awesome, more power to you. But do you think that people have unrealistic expectations that's been sort of fueled by this world of the manosphere and just online culture in general and all that stuff? Like I know for sure that there are some great qualities to all of this, like
Mhm.
talking about and I know you don't like the term high value man because I agree with you. I think it's just being a man, being a protector, a provider, working hard, building wealth to support your family and all these things that I just thought were like being a good man, not necessarily a high value man.
Yeah.
But I guess we have to make that distinction these days.
Mhm.
So there are some good things, but do you think that in general, people's expectations are just way off in terms of like what they're expecting to find in a person, and that makes them end up waiting until they're like in their mid 30s and finding themselves single all of a sudden, like I should have, not to say settled, but been more realistic? Because I,
Yeah.
I see a lot of that.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, and I think it's because now they have like if I think back when, early 2000s, it was more so like, "Oh, I can't wait for, phones to be able to swipe. I can't wait for, us to have wireless internet." We wish for these things, they have been created, and we forget that it comes with consequences.
Yeah.
And I think like now the privileges a lot of these people can make money online. They don't have to leave their house. They don't have real human interaction. And I think that's the biggest problem because I still have like a real life outside of social media. Majority of my life is outside. That's why I don't have a consistent like schedule online because I do see the day and night difference. And what happens if you're able to summon whatever you want online, you would assume that that should be like that for everything in your life. But the reality is you still have to work for everything in real life. So if you ask a lot of these people, like, what do you want in a relationship? They're going to name this build a bear, like, list of things that they want, but the reality they can't actually get that in real life because you haven't worked for it. Can you get it? Yes, if you worked for it, but just simply answering it, having the privilege to regurgitate it on like a keyboard onto a comment section is exactly what you feel like you deserve it. That's essentially what's wrong because like I think back early 2000s, like I'd be on the computer on MySpace or whatever. Guess what? I gotta get off the laptop and go straight to work. I didn't have time to be on my phone and look and continue feeling like this is what the world should be right here on my phone. Look at everyone living. Look at how the girls look, how the guys look. I didn't have that comparison. You dealt with real life. So you see, this is real life. This is just pleasure. This is just fun. This is just leisure. This is just hope. And I think people confuse what the real is and what isn't. They just conflate everything into one. And
Yeah.
again, these are real things that they do exist. Like I live in Miami. So to me, I do see these people that are very, very attractive, that are very, very rich or whatever it may be, but yet they're unhappy. So it goes to say that's not the only thing that takes for men or women to be in a happy relationship or to be wanted, or for people to even acknowledge you. It takes a lot more than that. And it isn't as costly as people think it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that something that is kind of lost in today's culture is that I'll speak from the perspective of marriage because I'm married. It is a compromise every day.
Mhm.
Um, you know, there are there's a quote by Thomas Sowell. He's an economist. I'm a huge fan of him. He says there's no solutions, there's only trade-offs. And I think that just it obviously describes business and politics, but it also describes relationships. It's like I think people just expect, like you said, the build a bear of someone, and like they got to have this, they got to have this, they got to have this, they got to, and it's like, a, they're not being self-aware and truly evaluating, are they worthy of that, right?
Right.
And b, you have to realize a relationship is all about trade-offs and compromise, and like it's not easy, it's hard, it's constant work. It's if you just think you're going to find Prince Charming and he's just going to be perfect every single day and never have stinky farts or forget to take the trash out or whatever it is, it's like, dude, that's called being human. And I think people are so unrealistic with their expectations. It's like, you got to realize that all human relationships are compromises and trade-offs. It's like I'm trying to think of something in my own personal life, but I'm just so perfect, it's like, man, no, I'm kidding. Um, like there's plenty of shit I do that my wife hates, but there's also things that I do that, it's all about compromise. And I think a lot of times people, because of like what you said, they're living in this fantasy land of social media, and they want him tall, dark, or handsome, and it doesn't matter if there's 20 guys who are maybe sixes who would be like the best freaking husband in the world that want to protect and provide and be there. Like they don't even get the time of day, right? Because they're already like, this is the ideal man. They've got to look like this. They've got to be rich. They've got to, etc. Um, and I think more people need to realize it's all about compromise, and it's hard work. Like if you think you're going to have a long-term real relationship, especially if you're going to build a family and build wealth together and do all these things, like if you think it's going to be a cakewalk, then I mean, best case scenario, it's hard as shit and you get through it. Like it's not sunshine and rainbows. And I just want to convey that, especially to young people, being an old ass dude who's actually done it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that the younger generation lacks having to build anything from scratch. And I think like it's not just relationships, it could be business, it could be goals, it could be literally anything requires an amount of work that you want. And it's just a matter of they hear hard work and they don't want to do it. And I'm like, no, you should find someone that you want to do it for, because it's going to require hard work, whether you do it with someone you like or someone you hate. So you might as well do it with someone you like or love or whatever it is. And it's something that you definitely have to, like I said on another podcast, I was like, it isn't someone you're just going to find. It's someone you have to cultivate and harvest in a way where it's
Mhm.
like, I kind of like you, but I really want to love you. Like, how do I make this happen forever? And how do I fall in love with even the way you snore? Like that is the essential goal for a relationship. And I think like most people are looking for, again, this build a bear lover, partner, and girl. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. You're never going to be happy with that. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really think it's just people on social media, because again, like my friends back in Tampa will say like, dude, I love you, but I can't watch your content because it's not relatable, because it's not relating to normal people problems. They want to know, they're already in a relationship. They want to know how to be happy in a relationship, and how to, elevate in the relationship. The stuff that we're talking about on social media is things not to do and things how to stay away, things to be aware. We're still talking about guidelines that we can't even get to the actual like core of how a relationship operates, because people are so
Mm.
hell bent on even engaging into a conversation with anyone. I'm like, can you guys learn this so we can get onto the level 2, please, and level 3, level 4, level 5? So that's where I'm at now, as far as like my delivering my message with like people on social media, because before I was very offensive, like, and I still feel very like unoffensive. I still have all the same thoughts, but it's just, if I'm going to keep talking like that, if there's 10 people in a room, only 3 are going to listen. And if that's all you want to do, that's fine. But for me, there's 7 other people that could potentially listen to me if I had more empathy for whatever the hell it is they're going through. Just because it's not my generation doesn't mean I have the right to sit here on my pedestal and say, you're fucking weird, you're stupid, you're XYZ. That's not going to do any damage or any progression like for where they're at. If you actually want to get people to listen to you, from my experiences, you have to kind of stoop them to where they're at and not make them feel like a piece of shit. And it's worked for me since I've changed the way I start talking to people, because I recognize that my demographic is a little different. The way people come to me is a little different. And I like the impact it's done.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you are essentially leading whatever you want. Like if you get bad company, bad comments, bad followers, that's the type of energy you go off and you don't realize it. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
yeah. You made a good point there that it's basically people expect the final product on day one, and you have to realize that what you're getting is something that, in your words, you can like shape into the final product eventually. So that's a great way of putting it, right? Like looking for someone that checks a few boxes and you see the potential there, not looking for the perfect final product, right? Like that's a really good way of putting it. And I just saw Just Jerry podcast. asked some tips on being a father and tips on maintaining a beard. So the
And he super chatted that for you also, so shout out to Jerry for that.
shout out to Jerry. Um, yeah, these are two things that I can actually talk about. I can't talk much about dating, but beards and kids. Um, so being a father, man, if I had to give one piece of advice on that, there's an old adage: do as I say, not as I do." I could not disagree with that more, right? And that's a cop out for a shitty parent who wants to not be disciplined themselves and expect their child to be disciplined. What I live by as a parent is do as I do because I'm going to make damn sure I do the right thing because I know you're watching. And you can talk all you want. You can tell your kids to do this and that and the other, but unless you're the example for them, it's not going to matter. They learn so much more from watching you than from listening to you. So you have to live a better life for your kids. You have to be disciplined. You have to take care of your body. That's really important to me, taking care of my health and eating right and instilling that in my kids, and also showing her mother affection and what a good relationship looks like, and showing her what a real man is. Because when she's finally dating, which I hope is in like decades from now, um, I want her to expect the man in her life to live up to the same standard her father embodied. And so you have to lead by example in being a father. Like, this whole do as I say, not as I do shit is a total cop out, and your kids aren't going to listen to that anyway. So another thing about parenting, we already mentioned Patrick Bet David earlier, but I want to mention him again because he gave some really good advice on, being a wealthy parent and raising your kid. A lot of times, you like, for example, I sold my company in 2018, and my like I said, my daughter is she has everything taken care of for her. She doesn't need anything, and it's very important, even if you find yourself in that sort of position, that you still work every day and you show her what that looks like. Because any rich kid I've ever met who has rich parents who like made their money and now they just play golf every day, those are the ones that end up messed up because they don't have an example, right? He
Mhm.
even talks about taking his kids to work so they can see him working, doing a negotiation on the phone in the car with it on speaker so they can hear that, right? Like, all of these things are super important. And there's probably things you can think about as an adult that you observed as a child and always stuck with you, right? So just keep that in mind as a parent. I don't know if Jerry's a parent or not yet, but that would be my best advice. Because, dude, our daughter will randomly say things that she heard me say that I had no clue she was even around, right? Like, they pick up on everything. Um, and as far as maintaining a beard, get yourself a good beard oil. Make sure you condition it, um, trim it because you get those split ends, but otherwise it's pretty easy. So thank you
Love
for
that.
the questions. Yeah,
Yeah, I know this is your first time using StreamYard, so
it is.
just keep in mind you do have people on the middle comment section. I know some of them are your people and some are mine. We have them combined together, so feel free to address them at any time. But I usually wait at like a moment to address everybody. So just letting you know.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, because there's quite a few in here.
Mhm.
I literally, like Angela said, it's my first time using StreamYard. She's bringing me into the 21st century, and I just saw over to the side that there was like a bunch of there was like a number beside the comments thing of all these
Right.
comments, so I just opened it up. But anyway, I'm looking at them now. I wasn't ignoring you guys. I just literally discovered that it existed. So
Yeah. So shout out to
anyway,
everyone that's here:
yeah,
Janelle, Jeremy, Phil, Bloopy, Donko, everyone that's here for my channel. Thank you for showing up, and shout out to Brenda. I think that's your person, but hi, Brenda.
Brenda's the shit. I love you, Brenda. Um, yeah, Brenda is an Instagram friend who has become a real life friend, and her and her husband are awesome people. They got a bunch of
Oh,
kids, and they're living life. All right, so what was I going to ask? Um, we talked about sort of this dating scene for Gen Z and how essentially it, it's in large part something that we've created and we need to have empathy. And then of course there's this whole online presence of Red Pill and Andrew Tate and Pearl and sort of, I'm sure you know who all these people are,
Mhm.
who I feel like. So here's my hypothesis. We had the sexual revolution and the whole I don't know which wave of feminism it was. I think we're on the fourth wave of feminism now, where it's just like men should die. But before that, it was, you should be sexually free and all this stuff, right? And so that created sort of hookup culture because let's face it, women are the gatekeepers of sex. Because like you said earlier, a lot of times men just want to have sex, they're looking for that, and it takes the woman to say no. In fact, that was actually what really turned me on about my wife, because the first time I met her, I was like, I'm in college. I'm like, oh, we're going to hook up. And she was like, no, bro, you got to earn this. And she demanded my respect. And so that's a perfect example. Women are the gatekeepers because we're just dogs a lot of times. Um, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh, the sexual revolution, hookup culture, which I think is toxic in a lot of ways, all these one night stands and
Mhm.
everything. But I think the pendulum has started to swing a lot further away from that now, as often does in politics and a lot of things. Like you'll have a Democrat president and then you get a Republican president and it swings back. So my theory is that it's swinging back in the other direction now. So you have this sort of hyper traditionalism that's starting to manifest online. People like just pearly things saying men want a virgin and things like that. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that whole thing.
Uh, it's such a mixed feeling about everything. Like a lot of what they say, like for example, Pearl, she says a lot of surface things that are it sounds good on paper, but if you're in an actual relationship, that doesn't even apply.
Yeah.
Like it's like she's talking about something that she herself like won't even live and won't even do. So yeah, I do recognize like referencing what you said that women are the gatekeepers of sex, but I will also, argue with the fact that people are liars nowadays. And if we're going to punish people for being naive and looking for love, then I'd have to say we're going to punish everyone in the room then, because yes, some women are ridiculously ignorant or just too naive to recognize that this guy actually doesn't want a relationship. But
Hmm.
seeing the way a lot of these people move in Miami, it's just a small example of how the world is and how people are on social media. These guys up front on camera are like, fuck women. Women suck. We don't need these women. But then behind closed doors, they're simping. They're like extra sweet, bubbly. Girl, I'll take you on a date. You're the only girl I want. I'm sorry. If we're going to punish a woman for being naive because you told her sweet little lies, like to me, if you have to lie still and cheat your way into anything in life, whether it's finances, a relationship, anything in life that you're having to lie, that you're not actually doing the correct way. And that's what I'm noticing,
Mm.
that these guys talk such a good game on camera, and then behind closed doors, I see their text messages with these girls. I see the way they lie to these girls, the way they persuade them into these types of relationships where they lied to these girls. And I just don't think, like, if you're truly a pimp, like you say you are, or whatever it is you claim to be, you wouldn't have to lie to these girls. There's plenty of men that have these relationship with 5 different girls. Not plenty, but there are men out there that can get women to be in that position, but they don't have to lie to them. These girls are aware of it. But if you have to kind of finesse your way into the situation and then like stress yourself out, then that means you're focusing solely on relationships. You're not actually building anything, no business. You're not
Mm.
doing, you're not leading a family or
Good
anything.
point.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So to me, I don't believe that these people understand what they're saying. Sounds good on one spectrum. Like what Pearl is saying sounds good on a podcast. It sounds good because she's selling some sort of entertainment. You're spiking that dopamine that they're looking for, but you're not actually solving a problem, because the reality is, like just a quick example, like I was offered a job to move here, and that I'm gonna metaphorically say that's like a relationship. When you work with anyone, it's a relationship. And when I got here, it was a lie. The way the job was set up, the way the person came about, the way that they lied to other people to get me to move here. And to me, I was battled with like, damn, do I go back to Tampa as a failure because I was tricked into this, or do I stay here and make something out of it? And I think of that like, what if I was in a relationship with someone like this and they lied to me because I saw an opportunity like, oh, I have this, you have that, we can grow in this. So if we're gonna punish some of these people for being innocent and naive, it's kind of harsh, but sure, we had to point fingers at somebody. But they're all also the girls who know that the OnlyFans girls who are engaging into hookup culture for these transactional types of relationship. But I think at that point, the guy and the girl both know that it's transactional. Like you're not actually looking to build. And that's another thing that they usually gravitate to.
Right. Yeah. If I could offer any advice to young women, as again, as the old man here, I would say, because I think, like you said, oftentimes, so the arrangement where they both know it's a hookup and that's it, great, whatever, have fun, do your thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I do think a lot of times women are looking for, because they're biologically programmed to be, I think, more monogamous than men just in general, and that goes back to, reproductive dynamics and all sorts of things. But they think that if I just give it up to him, because that's clearly what he wants,
Mhm.
then maybe he'll want to pursue a relationship with me. Like,
Mhm.
dude, like, don't give it up that easy. If that's what you really want. And again, this is just my advice speaking from my experience. I had so much respect for my wife when she was like, dude, you keep that thing in your pants tonight. We're going to get to know each other. And it, it I don't know if you agree with that, or because
No, I agree
things
with
have
it.
definitely changed. I don't know if it's normal to just hook up on the first date if you're pursuing a relationship with someone. I just think that a lot of times, men and women are different. We misunderstand each other constantly.
Mhm.
That is marriage. Basically, that's every day in my life trying to figure out my wife, and she's trying to figure me out, and usually I'm wrong and she's right. Um, just because she's smarter though. But guys a lot of times are we're programmed to pursue biologically to pursue that hookup. And I maybe I'm wrong here, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find some guy who goes on a date with a girl and she's pressing him for sex and he's like, no, 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 not on the first date. I
Right.
think that it's generally the other way around. Would you agree with that? And do you think it's a good strategy for young women to say, hey man, hold on, let's not, because I feel like it's just the norm these days that you meet somebody, you go on a date, you have sex. Like that, in talking to friends of mine who are dating right now, it's just like, yeah, of course we had sex. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Of course you had sex. Like, that's an important, like, special thing. At least I thought it was. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It's okay, so I used to be hardcore on the, "No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't have sex immediately." But then I started talking to some this generation again, it's different, so I think I have to shift the way my mind thinks.
Hmm.
And from what I've concluded is there's never a wrong time to sleep with the right person from what I've gathered. I think that if you're dating with the intention of marriage, there's nothing wrong with that. You could
Okay.
meet someone and there's no difference of waiting 3 months to sleep with this guy to find out he's a piece of shit, as to sleep with him on the first day, and then you guys end up really liking each other because of the actual core values that you both individually have with each other. So
Okay.
it's very different. Like, as opposed to back then, the girls growing up, like with me, I only had to compare myself to like maybe 15 people in my class. I didn't have to compare myself to 15,000 million people on social media. I didn't have that
Mm,
comparison. So a lot of the women's self-esteem nowadays, it's broken, women and men. I think that we both don't know what we're capable of when we're looking for people in a relationship. So when you meet someone, it's all smoke and mirrors. So you're looking at this person like, how do I keep this person in my life immediately? And I would have to say that
mhm.
women generally aren't taught how to be in a relationship. We only our moms are coming from a different generation. They're not telling us anything and they can't. And then our female friends are not that smart either. We're all going through the same shit. And then the men who actually know how male nature works, they're not going to give us the playbook on what they're actually thinking and how other men think. And then your brothers are going to most likely say no dating until you're 50. So, and then we have these women podcasts who don't teach you anything besides on
Dude,
how to go have fun of the weekend. So really,
yeah.
if you really think about it, who is really teaching women the actual core of what men think without demonizing and weaponizing men against women. Like you're kind of broke. It's there's no way around this. And we're in a culture where you could find the love of your life tomorrow and get married, or you could spend 5 years and never find the love of your life because you've exhausted all the resources that online have given you. You know, you could go on Tinder and Instagram and YouTube, and you could find people that you could have been your husband or your wife, but because you've exhausted the resources and you didn't actually utilize your full potential, you just wasted. So it's very tricky. Again, I know I'm rambling also, but it's a 50-50. I don't think there's a wrong time to sleep with the right person if you're actually building on your own self as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. That makes sense. And I mean, look, I'll be honest. She said no the first night, but it was like a week later when I, did did the thing, and it clearly worked out, right? And
Right.
I think that's exactly what you said. It's never the wrong time to sleep with the right person. And also, I do think, you know, it's important to make sure you're compatible in every way possible, right? And the sooner you know that, the better. I'm not one of these wait until marriage to do that. That's a bit antiquated. Although I think if that's your life goal and that's what you want to do, then more power to you. Mad
Mhm.
respect. You know,
Mhm.
I if you have that self control, um, I agree. I want to ask you a very vague question.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think about gender roles in the modern era?
Um, okay. It's a good question. I think that they do exist. They can be implemented, but I also think that people have to recognize that we don't live in that era anymore where women don't have the rights to work or go to school and vote. So if she's just going to be at home cooking and cleaning and making butter from scratch, I would hope to God that as a man, you're doing everything as your job as a man. But that's just not the reality. Like women nowadays are going to school, are working, and financially, it is essential for both people to do that in a relationship. So if she's doing all of that, working 40, 50 hours a week, and you still want her to do the whole wifely duties, what are you doing as a man in this modern era that is so hard that you can't at least help her wash the dishes, that you can't help her like change the kids' diapers? It's not like everyone is a CEO or living in the five top 10% bracket. So for them to
Right.
sit here and watch these Manosphere stuff and say, well, I want a girl who's going to make butter from scratch and sew the kids' clothes from like, I don't know, cotton. I'm like, to me, it's like half of these guys are making their income from like drop shipping. Like what's so you're driving to work in your Tesla. You guys are online super chatting $500 for to tell this girl to shut up. Like I can assure you that the men nowadays are not working hard the way my grandpa and my uncles used to work. So to me, it's like we're both all in an era where we both have opportunities. Sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's 50-50. But we can't sit here and just push it all on for women, and that's why we have these corrupted homes. Because I would
Yeah.
say women in the West are more likely, in my opinion, we're open to working, we're open to growing with our partner. Who wants to grow with us? But these guys have washed in their mind, oh, it's too much work. I'll do all the work. I'll suffer all the mental health issues. I'll suffer all the back labor. Just stay in the kitchen because I don't want to challenge the idea of us evolving in this land and this opportunity that we have in this day and era. So you're closing yourself off. Why? Because you're scared of the endless opportunities because you don't want to both grow. So that's really
Mm.
the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked that because I saw something earlier, maybe it was yesterday, where it was a woman saying that she wanted a traditional man who did all the traditional man things, but she basically didn't want to do the traditional woman things. It was like, how can I find a traditional man, but who doesn't expect me to do all the home stuff? It's like,
Mhm.
wait, so you want him to work and take care of you and you not have to work and you also won't do anything in the home. I actually I'll keep it vague. I have a friend who does that. He works, it's a single income household, and he provides all the income, and his wife like refuses to clean the house. And it's like, I mean, I believe exactly what you said. I'm not big on traditional gender roles. I do think I'm a protector and it's my duty also to provide, but my wife works, right? And we split duties around the house and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But I just think that there's sort of like people partially receive that message, and just like this woman like expecting a traditional man who will take care of her and provide and all these things, but she's like, it's the modern era. I'm not going to like clean the house and do all the dishes and do that. He's going to have to cook and stuff too. It's like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You either both contribute, or you, if you're going to want the traditional man that takes care of you, then you got to pull your weight too, and vice versa. If you want the traditional woman who's going to stay at home, and look, you can find a woman like that. I know plenty of women who are like, I wish I didn't have to work. I wish I could just stay at home. But
Mhm.
these days, you know, my man doesn't make enough. I have to contribute. Like, that's just how it is. I think people have a jaded perception of what that looks like. It's like, going back to what we said earlier, a lot of people, I don't want to sound like I'm being a cynic or being mean, but a lot of people really don't know what it is to work hard, and they don't
Mhm.
want to have to, right? So you have this weird combination of expecting to not have to do anything but wanting everything. So
Right.
that's why I was curious of your opinion on that. Um because you just see, and I think some of it is like, young men will receive this message from the manosphere or whatever, and they're like, okay, I'm looking for a virgin, a traditional woman, you know, she's gonna stay at home and have kids and do this and do that. And it's like, bro, you make 35K a year working at T-Mobile, homie. Like, you need to realize that and
Yeah.
be realistic, right?
Mhm.
So I was just curious what your take is on that, because I see a lot of really unrealistic stuff from both sides, really, as
It's
far as the
yeah.
gender roles.
It's beyond unrealistic, again, with the gender roles and, again, the perception of what a relationship actually is. And I think that me being in a relationship and also having to run a business, it's taught me what a man actually has to go through mentally, physically, emotionally. And that's why, like, a lot of people don't realize you have to do what you don't want to do first, and then you'll realize like why you have to do it, and then you want to do it. So in the beginning, people don't want to work. You're, oh, I want to just stay home and I just want to just do absolutely nothing. You think you want that. And then you realize when you're doing it, you're like, my brain is turning into like mush, because there's really nothing. Like, we are designed to be challenged. We're designed to grow and evolve. And a lot of people don't realize, like, you're thinking for what you feel right now. Right now you may be frustrated with life. You may hate everything that you didn't have, and you maybe think you deserve. But if you're focused on that solely and you're saying, I want to just stay home, that's why you're fucking miserable. Because I know plenty of women who have, had kids and told me after the first year of staying at home, they're like, I feel like a loser. Like, I feel disgusting. I don't feel
Mm.
attractive. I don't feel like I can connect to the outside world anymore. My husband talks to me like I'm in preschool. And it's like, she's like, I want to feel connected to my partner. And she's like, and if I, and also what people don't realize, yes, back in the days, our moms stayed at home and raised us, but also my mom had postpartum depression. She was a little psycho. She was abusive in so many ways. So yeah, she stayed there all the time and took care of us, but she was also a little mentally ill. And I would also say that relationships have boundaries on it. So if you're always around someone or something, you're going to abuse it without realizing it. So you want to go to work. You want to, like, we have the privilege in this generation for a man and a woman to work and maybe pay like a nanny to or a housekeeper or something to help you so that you can have that extra time to make date night for each other. Like, something has to work so that we can evolve and really explore the options we have now, instead of just saying you need to just be stuck at home. You think you want it, and then you have it and you don't want that. And even for a man to think that, oh, I'm okay with working 80 hours a week to support. No, you think you want that shit. And then you come home and you're trying to, like, source out what happened today, and your wife has no idea what you're going through, and you don't even have the capabilities to talk to her and feel and want her to feel for you. Like, when I look at my fiance, like, I know exactly what he's feeling. I know exactly what he needs right there and then. I don't need to like pest him with 20,000 questions, because I understand the space that he's in. I understand my space that I'm in. And if we're coming from two different worlds just because we're coexisting with each other because our biological factor said we have to just make babies, but we're not in this historical time. Why not really learn how men and women think? We're very close and very different at the same time. And I think it's so much wasted potential because social media is brainwashing everybody to thinking that there's a whole gender war on each other.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that last part is good and so true, and I talk about this a lot. You know, it's so often misrepresented as men versus women, when really it's men and women together in this cruel, unforgiving world, and we need, it's just like this whole, y I think you consume Jordan Peterson's content, I think you quoted him earlier.
mhm,
You know, he talks about, you know, he pushes back against this notion that humanity was a tyrannical patriarchy all through history.
Mhm.
When, you know, it's really just men and women are different. Women did different things, men did different things. And, when you look at distribution of things like aggression, men tend to occupy the um the most, like if you take a man and a woman, it's a 60% chance the man is going to be more aggressive, right? Because we got this thing called testosterone. At least traditionally. These days, who knows? We can't even define a woman apparently. But we tend to be more extreme. We take more risks. That's just how men are. And this notion that it's a battle between men and women because men ruled the world and all this stuff, it's like, no, women did different things, and
Mhm.
they're more agreeable. And you've probably heard Peterson talk about all this stuff. What I would say though is, like, if you are that type of woman that is genuinely happy staying at home and you want to do that, more power to you, because I do think that a child being raised at home by their mother is the best scenario versus a caretaker. And look, we had a nanny for our kid. Now she's in school. So I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm just saying, like, so for example, my wife, she's Filipina. Her mom came here from the Philippines. Funny story. She was actually a mail order bride. And it's crazy. Different times. My father-in-law is in his 70s. Um, he went over there in the Navy, fell in love with the people, got back here, literally ordered her from a catalog, and she came over, and they've been together for decades. Like, it's a beautiful marriage. It worked out.
Mhm.
Um, and she's a nurse, like a ton of Filipino women are in the United States. And
Right.
when she had kids, she stayed at home. She stopped nursing, and then when they got into school, she went back to her nursing career. And so, if you want to do something like that, I say more power to you, because it massively benefited my wife. And um, I just want to make sure we don't demonize, like, stay at home mom, if
Oh, no,
that's
no,
what
no,
if,
no,
if
no, no,
that's
no.
what you want to do.
I've solely like I think that it's important to and highlight on what this generation has to offer. I would never
Yeah,
sit here
yeah,
and
yeah,
demonize like so I know I say it in that way, and I probably should fix the way I say that. I think it's again, you could utilize it depends on how your relationship is ran, what your goals are, what your financial brackets are in life. And essentially, like I mentioned earlier, it's with the way that life is nowadays, you can survive off of pretty simple income, but we don't have to just live and survive. We can thrive. And to
yeah,
thrive, you have to make a lot of money. And to make a lot of money, you can either divide it between two people or you can focus just on one person and you both can kind of swap off in responsibility. So it's worth you busting your ass to make this amount because it's like public school is free, but it comes with a catch 22. And I'm not sure I
hmm,
want my kids in a public school. If you think about the way the food is in America. You think about like, do I want my kids to eat organic or do I want my kids to eat like GMO food? Like, what do I want? These things cost money. People spend a lot of money on groceries. So it's like we can survive off of like a bullshit simple income, but do I want to just survive? I had to survive in my generation. My kids would be living great, but they also would be thriving for whatever their generation has to offer. And that's essentially what I mean. So being just a stay-at-home wife for me or a mom, it could work. But also, I know that I have the capabilities to do more. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that it's important for people to recognize like you don't have to just say, I'm scared of what the opportunities could be. I'd rather just stay within your gender roles and just stay at home and raise the kids. And I think yeah, my kids will be raised, but also after 18, they're gonna be leaving the nest. What's my identity after they leave? I'm still gonna be a mom, but not a full-time
hmm,
mom. So it's like you have to still maintain some sort of normacy within the years of raising your kids, and people don't think about that enough because they make their whole identity to be a mom, and they forget to be a wife, they forget to be a human beyond just being a mom. And that's where like a lot of relationships crumble, and then the husband feels like, oh, what's the point of going to work and doing all this if my wife doesn't even acknowledge me because she's too busy
yeah,
feeding on
yeah,
the kids. Like it's just like a trickle effect of so many bad things.
yeah. No, that's a good point. And that's why, like, for example, wife my wife's mom went back to work after the kids were in school, right? So I do think that, especially, like, Brenda commented in here, she homeschools. So she's a stay-at-home and she homeschools, and so that is a full-time freaking job. And,
Yes.
more power to you. It's amazing that your husband can support you in doing that and raising your kids. I think that's beautiful. Um, parenting is a lot of freaking work, especially if you got little kids. So,
Mhm.
I think that the sort of hybrid way of, if you can step away while they're little until they get into school and then maybe go back to your career like my wife's mom did. I think that's awesome. But I do think that, you know, online people just talk in extremes all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like, you've got to be trad. You got to, you
Yeah.
can't do
It's
this. You
so
can't do that.
extreme. It's so
It's so
unhealthy.
extreme. And here's the funny part with that, because oftentimes I find myself sitting there looking at these people giving relationship or dating or marriage advice. And I'm like, bro, you're single. Like,
Mhm.
there's so many of these people trying to like teach men how to be high value men and how to, demand respect from your woman and all these things. It's like, you're not doing that, homie. Like, why are you telling people how to find a mate when you don't have one? Like, I can talk about marriage because I've been doing it a long ass time. But like, if you're gonna sit there and say, here's what you need to be doing, and you've never had a long-term relationship even, then why the hell should we listen to you? And
Mhm.
that brings me to what happened with you on the Sauce cast and this guy. What is he, like, modern dating or some shit? What is his name? I don't know.
His name is MLD.
MLD. All right.
Mhm.
That's a perfect example. And I don't know a lot about the guy, but the way you beautifully called him out in that segment was just this perfect example of how people, like you said earlier, they put on a facade, they project to be this thing, like he's teaching people about dating, when clearly, I mean, the dude crumbled and walked out when you just called him out for not owning up to his own shit. Um, just for people who might not be familiar with that, can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I think it was so beautiful. It was like poetic justice the way that played out. And I just loved it. I think I even messaged you. I was like, dude, I just saw this. It was amazing. Good for you. But I think we need more of that, more of calling out people like that who talk it but don't live it, right?
Right. Before I do that, I would just say again, thank you, Amy, for tuning in. We'll talk soon, Jerry, everyone, George. We'll get to that. But yes, what happened in that situation, and then the reason why I'm being a little vague about the situation now is because I don't
Oh,
like
my
a
bad.
kick. No, 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 no. I'm just prefacing for anyone that has been watching me on the other streams. I don't like to kick a dead horse. I think it's important to recognize, like in war, like when someone's down, even if it's your worst enemy, like it's not like you don't gain anything from kicking people when they're down.
Nah,
I said
dude,
my
twist the knife. Come on, just bury him. This is for
yeah.
my listeners.
So to sum up what happened was we're all content creators on here, and it's if you see someone that you could potentially work with or have mutual like collabs with, it's important to recognize what you say and what you represent. And what happened with this guy is he has a pretty huge-ish platform, and he works with other people that I also know. So he's verified on social media and YouTube and all that stuff. And when I was on a show where he was in the comment section here, where he decided to just call me fat and unattractive, whatever the hell he thought like he needed to say, just basically to physically attack me for no legit reason. And if I had to assume why, it was simply just a fact like, why is this girl sitting in a chair that I should be sitting in, and why is she saying something that a guy should be saying? Which to a certain degree is like, I think that's crazy. That even when I'm trying to be as logical as possible, as the men in this space say that they are, like, men are logical, women are emotional. I couldn't be any more logical nowadays than I've ever been in my life, and I'm still getting shitted on constantly. So I'm still waiting for the privilege that all these people say that I have, because I've literally had to work for every position that I've ever been in and every chair I've been in. And they don't realize like all these privileges that they say that women have. The privilege you're saying that they have is the blowjob position, because if you want to get in certain chairs, you just got to give someone a blowjob. But that's not necessarily a privilege, because there's a catch 22 with that. So there's no freebies in the space. You want a chair, you actually have to work for it, man or woman. There's no competing with that. So long story short, he is basically being mean to me for no reason. And I wouldn't care if he was just a troll. Like if there was like a faceless profile that happens to me all the time, I'm used to it. When you're a content creator, this is what comes with the
Oh
territory.
yeah, yeah.
But if you're a face that everyone knows or knows of or works with, and I get off the show and the co-host was like, hey, did you have beef with someone? So, and I was like, not that I know of. Why? What do you say? She's like, well, like this person said this about you. Like, are you sure you don't have beef with this person? I was like, no, I didn't know I had beef with them, but I guess we do now. So long story super short, they invited me back on the show like 2 weeks later, and he was there. So I didn't know that nobody knew the beef. I assumed everyone knew because I think people got in my mind. Maybe it's just I'm used to social media, but everyone gossips. Everyone wants the latest tea. So it's always been like a wildfire about whatever it is. Like everyone wants to just capitalize on insecurities and drama. I'm very much used to that, and that's why I've had to control my emotions because I can't be that woman where everyone says, "Oh, she's an emotional woman." I refuse that. So I've changed my tonality in a lot of spaces because I don't want to be I don't want to take away my message just because I'm expressing it in a passionate way. So, long story short, I was there. We were about 30, 40 minutes. I don't even know how long it was, but it was long into the show. And I realized that this wasn't going to be brought up that me and this guy don't like each other. And what infuriated me the most was the fact that the main host of the show was asking the guy I didn't like, do you think this girl has daddy issues? Do you think this person, like, the person that
Mm.
you don't like has to rate your sanity? Who the fuck are you? I'm sorry. It's almost like me disrespecting your mother and then you have to come be my waiter. Like you don't want to serve me because you know that I disrespected you. That's such a slap in the face. So after I realized
Spit in your
like
food.
yeah, like after I realized that the host of the show had no idea what was going on, I'm like, well, how am I going to squeeze this into the conversation at this point? Because I don't want to leave this show and then me run into him again at another space and then become a dick to him, and he'd be like, "What's your problem?" And I'm going to be like, now it looks like I settled on this idea that I don't like him and I never brought it up. And why didn't you bring it up before? Time has passed. Everything is a window in these spaces, so I don't really have
Yeah.
time to lose. So I brought it up, and basically, long story short, I didn't know what to expect. I've never had to confront someone like this in a civil manner before. I grew up in poverty. When we didn't like someone, we threw hands. That's just a very like meet me in the
Same.
back. Like that was very normal. But like in a civil manner, live publicly, I didn't know what to expect. And I'm used to like the men in my family. They live on a moral code and some sort of code of conduct. Like if you're wrong, you're wrong. Point it out.
Yeah.
And whether you change or you grow, it's between the two. I don't really know, but like when I called him out, he pretty much just denied, made me seem like I was crazy. It was gaslighting, deflecting. It was so much stuff that I wasn't used to. So long, it was just it turned into a complete shit show for him. Apparently, it was a victory for me, but being where I am at right now, like, yeah, it feels good, but like I'm so against cancel culture in so many ways. Even people I don't like, I think it's important that they cancel themselves based on
Yeah.
the quality they put into the world. So in parts of ways, I don't like this person. I don't like what they represent and what they turned out to be. But I guess it's something that I have to just accept. This is what comes with the territory when people eat and sleep and shit in their own bed. This is just the consequences. Like they say, women don't have consequences. Well, I'm aware of my consequences. I hope he is aware of it, and I hope the guy figures out his life journey. So that's the
Yeah.
beef
Yeah.
of the
So
world.
right. So long story short, you called him out in person. He deflected. He ended up walking off. He would never own up to it. And I think that that is just a perfect summary of how so many of these people are. We before we went live, we were talking a little bit about like not saying he was your idol by any stretch, but like don't meet your idols because we've both met people in this space,
Mhm.
whatever this space is, create content creator. I'm a lot of personal development,
Right.
business, and politics. And so many of these people you meet are just nothing like what they portray themselves to be. And I brought that up because I also wanted to mention, for one, it's just a total, to use an overused term, it's a total beta move on his part to make that comment, right? But in general, for everybody listening, if somebody resorts to ad hominem attacks, basically like calling you fat or ugly or whatever, they have already lost, right?
Right.
If they have an actual issue with you, then they'll debate that on the merit of your arguments versus theirs. If they immediately resort to talking about the way you look,
Yeah.
they've lost. Don't worry about it. Move on. I've learned that because
Yeah.
you know um, I've got a decent following on Instagram, and at first it was like I would get so worked up, because I always hear the same crap, like dumb meathead, go do some more steroids, whatever. And I and
That's
I'm
so
like,
weird.
right? It's
What the
like,
fuck is wrong with people?
well, generally they disagree with me on something unrelated to the way I look, but all they have to really go on is like, you're a dumb meathead, go put a needle in your ass. And I laugh at that stuff now because truly, if they resort to that, they've already lost. They have no
Right.
grounds to argue on, right?
Right.
And so I just thought it was beautiful the way it played out. Not to beat a dead horse, but I did want to at least talk about that a little bit because
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
representative of this entire space. You know, so many people don't live the way they talk. And I just think
Mhm.
that's a big problem, especially when you think about the fact that like they're influencing young
Yeah.
minds, especially, right? And I love that that happened. Like I said, I don't know the dude. I've never watched any of his content. I am curious, have you guys talked at all since that happened or?
Yeah, we have sort of. It's been very it's so like this. Like I've
Yeah.
never dealt so again, this is why we were talking about earlier about leadership skills in any situation because to me I recognize the chaos right now and I do recognize like how irrational this person's being. Um and they're just scrambling for answers at this point and double dutching on what they've done. So I'm always conflicted because again, like I'm a woman, I'm a girl. I can't help it but to have some sort of like sympathy for what's going on. But at the same time, I do recognize like it's not genuine. Like I wish it was genuine so that I could, forgive the situation in a sense where like, it's not a big deal. But he did reach out to me to apologize, but he wanted to do it privately. And I was like, no, we're gonna do this publicly. It started publicly,
Mm.
it will end publicly.
You
And
are
it didn't
his worst nightmare.
and to me, it's just a simple principle because it wasn't just him. It was the people in his community that came after me also. Like they were being really disgusting. They pulled up my mugshot from when I was 17. They posted it. They
Mm.
made profiles. They were being absolutely vulgar about it. So to me, it wasn't just beef with me and him. Like what I had with him, it was just me and him. I didn't bring anyone else into it. I didn't send an army to him. I didn't do shit. I just did between me and him. And what the way he handled it was pretty disgusting. And 24 hours prior to him reaching out to apologize to me, he made a disgusting like exposing video and he didn't expose anything. So it's been hard for me to forgive the person because it's almost like someone saying, oh, I love you, but they're stabbing you with a knife. And I'm
Mhm.
looking at his actions, I'm looking at the time clock, and I'm very like meticulous. I'm looking at what time you retweet hateful comments about me, about you liking certain comments of someone saying, oh, she's a whale, she's disgusting, she's a dumb bitch. You're still liking these comments, but you're writing to me in this formal sense of like, I didn't realize this. I think it was a setup. I want it to be amicable. I'm like, we're so past that, buddy. Like we're so past that. Again, I don't hold any ill will over anyone, but if you want to smash this damn thing down to the ground, it's gonna be publicly because for me, I'm someone's daughter. I'm someone's fucking fiance. I would look stupid doing business with anyone, being friends with anyone that demeaned me publicly the way you did to me. But yet you want privacy, discretion, not the same thing you gave me. You didn't give me any of this, but you expect it from me, which is the crazy part. It goes back to the way that this generation is, where because you have the power of social media, because you can just DM me this shit, you think that
Mhm.
you deserve the actual answer that you're asking for. You don't deserve it. And I'm gonna go off of the simple judgment that you're not you're what you're asking for doesn't match with what you're doing online because my eyes are everywhere. I do recognize like when someone's genuinely apologetic. Like I've had people reach out to me and apologize to how they were to me prior. And I know when someone's genuine. And if my judgment is wrong, then that's shame on me. But when I'm looking at what you're saying and you're still being a dick online and you still obviously haven't learned your lesson, or maybe you're just coping in a manner of like, that you're running from your consequences, I won't accept it. I'm sorry. I was like, you can say that I'm bitter, you can say that I'm angry, but I live a very, very peaceful life. This internet shit does not get to me because this isn't my life. This is what I do for leisure. This is what I do when I'm bored. This is what I do to connect to this world. But my real life has nothing to do with what social media is going on right now. So it doesn't bother me the way it's probably bothering him. And if he's watching in any form or way, I just want him to know, like, dude, you could fix all this if you would publicly work with my time. And I think that by the time he wanted to publicly go live together to apologize, my schedule's already been set. Like throughout the week I have streams every single day with different people, different collabs. So it's not when you want it, it's when you need it to do it. When I said, hey, if you want to do this, let's do it right now at 7 p.m., you're like, oh no, it's not for clout. I'm like, oh no, the way you dragged my situation, it was clout. So again, we're gonna
Yeah.
fix it the right way. And I think like I'm trying to be noble and fair in the space. And I'm seeing more than ever that the guys that say that they're men that are alpha, they're not showing that. They're not displaying that. It's very hypocritical. They're expecting that from me, but they're not displaying it as a man. And that's why I went back and referenced in that video where like these guys in these spaces or in general are influencing younger men saying like we want a submissive woman, we want a girl who gives us what we want. Oh, you're not God, bro. You don't just get to demand these things. You have to live the life before you say these things, and they're not living it. No girl owes you submission. And like someone said, Andrew, you're masculine for doing that. If I'm masculine for addressing a situation, then I'll own being masculine. I don't give a shit because this is the thing with life, and they make women feel like shit for this. Like I don't owe the world submission. I owe my man that. I owe my man, not owe him, but because it's like he's the one that I spend my life with. The only person I actually have to be feminine and submissive with is the person that I'm sleeping with and spending the rest of my life with. But to strangers that don't have good motives when they're dealing with me, I don't owe anybody that. So
Yeah.
to sum
Yeah.
it up,
No.
that's everything.
No, that's perfect. And again, I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's such a good lesson for everybody, right? Like you need to conduct yourself online the way you would in real life because it will come back to bite you. And on the submissive piece, I just find it ironic because in that scenario, he was the submissive one in person. You know, look, just calling a spade a spade. He
Mhm.
submitted. He walked off. I mean, he totally crumbled. And I guarantee you, like you said, it's affecting him way more than you. And we'll stop beating that dead horse. But I just thought it was a great sort of microcosm of everything happening in this world right now. And I just like to see it. Um, would it? We got a question here. Would it be fair to say to be upfront, direct, and honest with women in general that can be not alpha but sincere? That was a question for you.
I'm trying to understand that question or process it. Like,
Mm,
would it be fair to say to be upfront, direct, and honest with women in general that can be not alpha but
Yeah,
sincere?
I think the question is it so you yes, I would say to answer that question, you can't being upfront, direct, and honest is not an alpha trait intrinsically. By the way, I am not a fan of the whole term alpha male. I think it's the same as like high value man and all this stuff. It's like, bro, just be a man.
Right.
That is what it is to me. It's not like it's just frustrating because it's like, dude, just it's being a man, period. And you know, the way I look at it is you make a mistake, you own up to your mistake.
Yeah.
You conduct yourself with honor and integrity, period. And that I think that's a good lesson for men and women. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily an alpha trait. It's a trait of a good human.
Right.
And it's like default. Like if you're gonna be this high value man or whatever, like like the foundation ground zero is you have to have honor and integrity, period.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you build on that, right?
Mhm.
And so if you can't even deal with someone confronting you in real life about something that you said that everybody knows you said, then man, you need to go back to the basics and learn how to be a good human first, and then you can build on that. That's my opinion.
No, you're completely correct on that. And when I did some deep diving, I found out that he doesn't have a father. He was raised by just a single mom. And it said so much about his personality and his comfortability of just running his mouth and saying, like, oh, yeah, I do this all the time. I talk shit about women all the time. That's not a healthy trait to have. Like, whether publicly, personally, like privately, mentally, that's not good to be that way, especially if you're saying that you're a high value man, if you're saying that you're an alpha guy. Like, what's so alpha about running your mouth like that? Because
Yeah, yeah,
the alpha people I know just look at me and I'm like, ooh, okay, let me fix my posture. Like, you don't have to call me a dumbass bitch for me to know that I'm acting like one. You can just look
right.
at me and I change my tonality. I'll change the way I'm walking, talking, sitting. And that's just to me, that's true alpha. And if you're going to use that term in any way.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I
it's
think
endless.
we've started using that term to describe just like sterling human characteristics, period, right? And it's that, and it often gets conflated with essentially mistreating women, which I hate because if we're going to use the term alpha male, a true alpha male cherishes women, protects women, is there for people in the community who need him, right? And
Mhm.
so I often talk about, and I don't know if you have a hard stop, so just let me know because
No,
I could
no, take your time.
probably
I
talk all night.
endless time.
Okay, sweet. Um, so my opinion on evolution as a man is you work on yourself. You make yourself your best possible self, and that journey continues through your life. Okay, you start there, but that's where you start, and you do that until you die. But then you find your partner, and you're there for your partner. You build with your partner. Then you become an asset to your well, before that, you have kids. Ideally, you don't have to, but you have kids, and you're a father to your children, you're there for your children, and then you become a pillar of your community. You start being there for people in your community, the people around you. You become an asset to them, and so on and so forth. Um, it's like the quote, fix yourself before you try to fix the world, right? Like, so many people are afraid to turn their gaze inward and say, I need to be better for myself, and then I need to be better for my person, and then I need to be better for my family, and then I can help my community, and then I can contribute to the world. And again, I just think that a lot of this stuff gets confused with, really, bro, that's just the basics of being a decent human, and then you build from there. But truly being alpha is like helping other people.
Yeah.
If you look at, so my background is in the sciences. I did my undergrad in zoology and biochemistry. I went to grad school for biochemistry. So the term alpha, if you look at it in the context of nature, like an alpha male in a wolf pack, he's the one that is, he's not just asserting his dominance and everyone follows him. He's helping everyone else too. He's, taken down the elk or whatever, and then the community gets to eat, right? Like,
Mhm.
being an alpha truly is being a helper, being there for other people, not just demeaning women and commanding respect from your woman and having them worship at your feet and all this stupid bullshit. It's being an asset to those around you. That's what
Mhm.
I think anyway. But I don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
use that term alpha much, because I'm just like, that's being a good human and a man.
Just
You
being a
know?
man, being a woman and being a man, and being a good person overall is, I think, it's simple. Like you said asset, I said value. I think word asset sounds better. To be a good asset to the community itself. And I highly believe in like paying it forward, just
Yeah.
because it shows people like you're doing it for a purpose, and it gives people room to want to do it also. Because if you're always sitting there in your own pot of gold, you're just rubbing in everyone's face how much of a piece of shit they are. And like it goes back
Hmm.
to, like, I seen a video of like, like a homeless man actually, and I don't know the circumstances on it, but he in my eyes was being the most alpha person he could be in the situation, defending a woman just because this other guy was just being a complete dick and not leaving her alone. That itself was displaying alpha. That itself was displaying leadership skills. Like that's what they don't realize. I see people that work at like Chick-fil-A or I don't know, like Chipotle or something, and there's people there that have passion, drive, and goals. They just are too young to be where they want to be or where they need to be, but they're paying it forward right there. They're paying their
Hmm.
dues to be a better person. But if you're in that position, you have these guys who are 40, 50 years old that are shitting on you because you don't have a Lamborghini, you don't have an only F girl or whatever it is, or 5 girlfriends, then it makes them feel like, what's the point? Why even bother doing life the right way? Why even strive on working on the foundation when I can just lie still and cheat my way to the top that the rest of these guys are probably doing?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's wrong with the world, because we're not embracing the steps in life that it takes to be a good person. We're just trying to find the fastest way to get there, and to be a piece of shit in the process. It doesn't matter who you step on, who you burn, who you kill. They don't care. And that's my biggest problem with this generation.
Yeah. A friend of mine put it to me. I just remembered this, put it to me beautifully, because we were having this conversation, and they said an alpha male is someone. So there were a few of us at a table. It was a podcast. They said if someone broke in the front door right now and threatened us, the one who runs towards the fight to protect the others, and versus the people who run away to the back door. And I'm not saying every situation you need to fight, because sometimes it is smarter to flee to protect your own life. But that person who feels compelled to immediately run towards the danger, towards the threat, to be an asset to the group, that's what it is. It's not what can you do for me, it's what can I do for you, right? Because you've
Mhm.
built yourself up into such a position of strength that you can afford to help the other people around you, right?
Right.
You've done the work to where you don't have to always be worried about yourself. You can turn your gaze outward and worry about others because you're good.
Mhm.
That is what it is to me. And I see so much of this, like, not willing to take responsibility and put in the work, but expecting to be, an alpha or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
I tell young guys all the time, they're like, what can I do? I'm like, start taking on responsibility, help out in your community, volunteer, be an asset. That's how you become. I mean, that's really the definition of high value. It's contributing to society. And I think that
Yeah.
people have that twisted oftentimes. Like, that's what it is. So it's like with me, I went through these iterations of, I was a young dumbass, right? I found a woman that tamed me a lot, and we built a relationship. We got married. We had a kid, and another one on the way. Built and sold a company, and so now a lot of what I'm doing is I'm going to these political events and getting involved in my community, and I might even run for local office here to help like that's the progression, right? Like you have to build yourself up in that way. And I think a lot of people just want to jump from the beginning to pass and go and collecting $200 instead
Yeah.
of stopping all along the way and building their empire. So that's sort of my opinion on it. And I think we agree on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, I think it goes back to I think I posted today about that social media making it seem like everything is just prim and proper. Like you look at someone's page, you think that they have it all together, so you don't really know the steps that it takes to get there. Like a lot of people,
Hmm.
like I've constantly been challenged with it where it's like, oh, you're a girl, you wouldn't know how it feels like this or that. And to me, like gender for me, and it doesn't really apply to me in a sense where because I didn't grow up with the whole privilege aspect of it. So I lived my life as anyone that had to create value or assets in their life. Like to me,
Hmm.
business, family responsible. I had to raise my own family, my siblings. I've taken care of business. I've had to do all this shit. And I did it so much that I became desensitized to it. So to me, what people don't realize is the opportunities you want comes with responsibilities, but you don't want responsibilities, you want opportunities. So you're never going to be happy waiting for that ticket to come by. You're never going to get the opportunity you want because you don't want responsibilities, because you don't want to learn other people. You want people to learn you. But
Yeah.
it's like you want the opportunities, you have to create it. So it's like a chicken and egg situation when it comes to life with people, and it's just the delusions that have been painted for men and women, young men and women, or even adults actually.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and you see that a lot in the business and entrepreneurship space too online. All these people taking pictures beside private jets with Lamborghinis, it's like, "This is entrepreneurship." It's like, "No, motherfucker, grinding for a decade, working 18 hours a day, living off of ramen noodles." Like, if you wanna know what it's like to build a business, I'll tell you, because I did
Yeah.
it. It's not
Yeah.
pretty, it fucking
It's
sucks.
not. No.
It probably knocked years off the end of my life, but
Mhm.
it and I just think that we're not realistic with showing the process in a
Yeah.
lot of these things, right? Just you got to just accept, like, we talk about the red pill a lot. I think the true red pill should be realizing that it's hard freaking work, period. Like that's reality. And someone commented that it's a microwave culture, and that's exactly right. People want it right now, instantly. And I mentioned, I think before we started streaming, my friend Andy Frisella, who owns the company First Form. I consider him a mentor. He's also a friend. I've been involved with his company for, gosh, half a decade now. But I told you, he's probably a billionaire at this point. And still, every day, he releases a podcast episode. He talks about hard work. He talks about all these things. He's politically active. Dude, he could be laying on a beach somewhere, just chilling, enjoying he's got like 10 Lamborghinis or something crazy. But he doesn't. And the type of person that builds something like that is never going to be the type of person that wants to just lay around,
Mhm.
right? Because you realize that the value, the joy of life is in the work.
Right.
And that's what people need to realize. It's like the joy of marriage is in the work. It's in freaking grinding towards making this thing better every day, right?
Right.
Realizing that it's work, that it's not going to be sunshine and roses. Like, same with building a business, same with being a parent, same, all of this stuff. Like, people need to realize it's beautiful, it's amazing, but you're going to sweat, you're going to bleed, you're going to suffer, and it's going to be all the more worth it in the end because of that. I
Mhm.
think that that's what people don't realize. And to harken back to something you said earlier, you made such a great point about how Gen Z and younger people today, they don't realize that because they have had such a good life because of their predecessors putting in the work, right? And
Yeah.
even with the millennial generation, like, I'm a millennial, but I'm an older millennial, and I know a lot of people, in our generation who are the same way. It's like their parents worked their ass off and built this life, and all they know is enjoying the fruits of labor they didn't do, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to instill that in people, but I think that it's doing a disservice to them with a lot of these online business coaches and friggin' like, relationship coaches, not talking about you, by the
Yeah, no
way,
worries.
just in general, people who sell this cheap dream of like, you can have everything without putting in the work. That's one
Yeah,
of the reasons I like Tate, because he does talk about being responsible as a man, taking care of your body as a man,
right,
operating with integrity. People like to say he's misogynist, but he talks about cherishing and protecting women and all these things, that it's like, if you actually took time to listen to the man, it's no wonder he's achieved what he has in life, because he
right.
understands that it takes that work. Right.
Mhm.
So that's, maybe I'm old school, but that's kind of my take on all of it too.
No, I agree with you on that. I don't really focus on like the negative stuff that I've seen on him, because to me, like now being where I'm at nowadays, I need proof on a lot of these things to make these assumptions. But on the core of what you said about him, I do agree with it. And I think I've made some videos about it, and I was on the sauce cast that it asked me. And because it's so
Oh yeah.
controversial,
You
I
rated
can't.
him a 9.
And just because his values have the same values of the men in my life, like I could see the core of it there. Like I could see that he doesn't stutter when he talks. I can see that he doesn't hesitate. He's not regurgitating things that people in the space are saying. It's something he truly believes in, and that's something I do. I wholly believe in that. The only thing I disagree with, that I've recently seen, and this is why like I stopped doing homework on people. I don't do homework on people anymore. I don't want to make my own biased opinions on people. I want to
Ah,
see.
so that's why you agreed to talk to me, because you didn't look me up.
Yeah, I only
Otherwise, you would
started.
have been like, "Screw this dude, I'm not talking to him." No, I'm,
No,
I'm
but
kidding.
in weird ways, it's true, because it's like I think that if I mean, I saw a video recently of him where he exposed, I mean, his the way that he ran his business with the cam girls. That's something I
Yeah.
would say like you don't do that. You shouldn't have done that. That's something you didn't need to tell the world. Maybe in his way he was trying to tell people that there's ways to make money. I don't know his motives behind it, but I think that made him look like a scammer, and the way that he thinks, because a lot of these things, these tactics that you have to use as a business owner in any type of way, it does involve being manipulative. And to me, it's not because you want to be, you kind of have to be, because it's like you're both going to walk away losing if I don't do this. But if I do it in the way that I need to, you will get paid, I will get paid, we'll all be happy. And maybe there's another word for it. I'm not that educated. I tell people all the time I barely graduated high school. So for me, it's just recognizing that I don't, I don't agree with the way that he handles things, but I can see the message of what he's doing, what he says, and it works for his life that he's cultivated, what he's done. Cool, great. But the people who
Yeah.
follow him, who keep trying to distort what they think being a man is, that's where I'm like, I'm completely disconnected with everyone that follows him, because I mean, I even think he's publicly announced that the other day on Twitter, where he was like, "Don't associate me with these dorks,"
Mhm.
because the
Mhm.
reality is they are fucking dorks. They don't know what they're doing. It's like seeing, like a little kid trying to be a grown person, and you're just like, no, like please, let's learn how to brush your teeth first before you sit here and tell me that you want to drive. And that's really where we're at now with society as a whole. People, men, women, gender, all this stuff. I'm like, can we just keep it simple? Life is hard enough. We don't need to do this. So I know a lot of people gave me pushback on giving him a 9, but it wasn't like I sat here and did homework on the guy, on what he's been
No, I
accused of.
I thought it was good. I thought it was, I mean, because look, here's the thing. If you take his core message and apply it to your life, if you're a young man,
Mhm.
it will make you better. It will make
Yeah.
you, because even if you just take the whole personal responsibility, hard work, discipline, so many young men need that, right? And it's so funny what you say about the people who have sort of sprung up from him, who try to be
Mhm.
like him, who aren't. I think about, so I have a 6-year-old daughter. She'll put on my wife's high heels and walk around, like that's what I picture. Like
Mhm.
you said, like you got to learn to brush your teeth before you drive a car. It's like they put on the big shoes and they're trying to walk around. It's like, bro, you haven't done the legwork yet.
Yeah,
So
you have to do
that,
all that. Yeah,
yeah.
and to touch back on, I think just to say this, like a lot of people said, "Oh, you're a relationship coach and all this stuff." Officially, I would say like I'm not a relationship coach. I went and got my certifications because everyone kept bashing me about my me being a sort of a life coach out of nowhere. And I'm like, dude, I talk about these things all day long, and I constantly get challenged at where are your credentials? Where are your credentials? Because the reality is, I have people that reach out to me, and I'm like, I can't do this shit all day for free. If I'm gonna take my time out to talk to somebody, you're gonna pay me for it to make it worth my time. But do I sit here and create courses on it? No. So essentially, I'm not really a relationship coach. I just say things that make sense, and people will have questions. I have answers. If you're willing to pay for it, I'm willing to help you. And if not, I'm completely fine with doing random podcasts and interacting with people on my clock. Now, if you want my time, you have to pay for it. I think that's just how I view it. But a lot of these guys may get their identity to be a whatever coach or male empowerment, whatever, and but all in bad faith. And then they just kind of like capitalize on people's insecurity, and it just
Mhm.
becomes like a circle of just like toxic cycles. Like you don't really want to help them, because if you cured their problems, you wouldn't have a existing customer or existing whatever it is community, because this is just how life is. You fix their health, you never see them ever again. So that's what I've
Yeah.
recognized from it.
Yeah, that is so true, and you I've seen, like, 21-year-old life coaches. I'm like, "Dude, you haven't even lived life yet. How are you a life coach?" Who
Yeah.
like, or somebody who just started working out 6 months ago, got in decent shape, and now they're a fitness coach. It's like, I mean, sure, if you're helping people, I'm not gonna knock you, but, like, come on, right? Like, get
It's tricky, because like if someone does anything, you have to be the absolute anomaly to say these things. Like you have to be a living like, wait, what? This doesn't make sense. Like, how can you say this and why does it make sense? Do you actually live up to it? Do like you can verbally say, but if you're not physically living it, it's hard for people to believe. And you could physically look like it, but if you don't verbally say it, no one will believe you either. Like it all has to coexist together. Like if you look at Tate, for example, his life financially, physically, family wise, like he has a private family life that he doesn't really post online and stuff like that. So you wouldn't assume the guy's a fan, but he does have a family. Out of
right.
everyone in the space, he's the only one that actually has a family. Now, whatever he chooses to do and expand on that, that's up to him. But you should at least have the core value of it. And I think, like for me, I think the only reason why I'm able to sit here and say these things is because I don't stutter when I speak with it, because it is coming from a core passion for me. And it's not
Yeah,
like I'm just regurgitating it from other creators that I've seen. Like I can truly say, like, if put in a room one on one with anyone, I could back up everything I'm saying. And again, as like a girl, I don't really see many girls in the spaces that are willing to go to the core of whatever they stand on. It's like it's just all surface. So any guy that does this, like a 21-year-old talking about life coaching, you could say it, but I would hope to God that you're able to back up every single stance, scenario, metaphor, everything you're saying. You have to be able to be like, oh shit, maybe you are actually that experience as a 21-year-old. Maybe you're that educated. I didn't expect that. And that's what makes you stand out if you're able to back it up. And I think people don't focus on that enough. They're just doing the everybody gets a trophy, like, oh, I could do it. I got my certification. I'm good. I can get by. It's
yeah,
bullshit. It's all facade.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. We've been going at this for a while. So what we can start to wrap it up. I want to ask you sort of in general, you've been super busy lately. I see tons of content. By the way, shout out to your editor. Your editor is
Yeah.
killing it. Um, what what does the future look like for you? What are your long-term, short-term goals? What are you trying to achieve in the space? Where does the next year or two look to go for you?
It's I don't even, to be honest, I don't really know. Like I think like my immediate relationship with my fiance is doing it. Like that was my biggest focus. And once I started focusing on myself, our relationship got really, really good. Um as far as
Good.
that, I hope to grow with that, because I think we've both broken like generational curses when it comes to things that we've been traumatized with. And to see the way that my family is now versus how they were before, like I let them lead my life, and now that
Mhm.
I'm leading my life, they're following it in a very healthy. I'm doing things that they never thought that anyone in this family could do. So I look forward to continue building that for myself, and I know it comes with a sacrifice with my time as a person. So to prioritize myself, my fiance, my family, um, having kids, I would say within the next year or two. Um, and
Awesome. I love that.
yeah, it's because I part of me, I really want to adopt. Like we're very into that, like him and I. But at the same time, I know like everyone's like, you should have kids, you should have kids. But at the same time, like the way that we were both raised, I was adopted in my teens, and so was he. So
Mm,
for us, it was more so like, oh, we kind of want to adopt, just keep this. But it's tricky because everyone says like you should have kids, you should biologically have them, and I'm like, yeah, but there's so many other kids out there that could use parents too. But
yeah.
like we'll figure it out when we get there. If it happens, it happens. Like that's another thing. I think that birth control, I get it for why people do, but I don't agree with it, because I don't believe that you should stop your body from something naturally that it's doing. And you should be sleeping with someone that you want to spend the future with. So if you were to get pregnant, you should keep the kid. But I'm digressing again. But yeah, there's that. And then
Preach.
And then as far as this online stuff, I'm hoping to just continue meeting more good people. Like I've met a lot of great content creators. What blows my mind is how many authentic people are so low key. They don't blow up because they're not willing to risk their, I don't know, authenticity for just like clout and like clickbaits and stuff like that. So I just look forward to just kind of growing in the space organically. Um, I don't want to buy my followers. I don't want to buy shit. I just want to meet people. I just want to grow in the space. I want to, yeah, I feel like it's helped me develop my personal like skills as a person and to connect with others and even, with my family and my fiance. So I'm just hoping to just grow in the space and whether it's financially, whether it's just networking, whatever it is, I guess we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's
that's pretty much
awesome.
it.
Yeah, beautiful. You mentioned breaking generational curses, and I just think that's really important. I want to just emphasize that because earlier we were talking about how this gentleman that you had the confrontation with, was didn't have a father, etc. And look, the stats are clear, right? Like
Mhm.
two-parent households result in more success. I mean, that's undeniable. But what I want to add, because I think this is important, because I think that oftentimes, especially young people, can use that as a crutch, right? So you grew up in a not so great, childhood, whatever,
Mhm.
breaking the generational curse. Both of my parents were 16, drug addicts. My dad left super early when I was like 3. I wasn't even really raised by my mom. I just jumped around from different family members, right? Like
Right.
we were homeless for periods of time. We lived in like a rundown trailer, terrible neighborhoods, crime, drugs, etc.
Were we neighbors? Oh, sorry.
Very, very
Like
possibly.
sound like we were neighbors.
I was the only white kid in my like. I didn't have a white friend until 6th grade. Like
Same.
it was just like that. That was. But my point is, you, that look, it sucks. It was a terrible way to grow up, but you can't use that as an excuse. It's
Oh, yeah.
possible to break the chain, right? It's possible to make something of yourself. Don't be like, "Oh, I was raised by a single parent. I guess I'm just doomed." Hell no. Like
Yeah.
hell no. Use that as your strength, right? I think
Mhm.
it can be an asset if you look at it as such because
Oh, yeah.
it's like I faced a bunch of adversity. It made me stronger. Now I'm going
Mhm.
to kick ass out here in the marketplace, right? I think that you can go one of two ways when you grow up in a terrible um, setting as a child, right? You can
Mhm.
say, "Well, I'm just doomed," right? This is how it is. Like for me, I was like, when I was super young, I was like, God, am I going to just be white trash because my parents are? But then I started to realize, and I don't want to go on too much of an aside here, but like for me, it was when I started lifting weights, and I was like, whoa, I'm in control of this. I can put in work and see a result, and that was huge for me as a young man. I started training when I was 15, and you are in control of your life. Don't let your situation dictate where you go, especially in America where literally every opportunity is out there. I just think that's very important to convey to people. You can't use it as a crutch. Like nobody, we're all born into different situations, but we can all get to that pinnacle of achievement, whatever that may be for you, if we put in the work. And I just think that's important to say, especially having a guest on like yourself who has made something of yourself, right? Coming from where you came from and breaking that generational curse, your fiance, same way. I just think it's so important. Like, you could very easily use it as an excuse, but you didn't, right? And I
Mhm.
just want people to hear that. If you're dealing with that, if things are crappy, if you're a young kid and you got an abusive parent, an alcoholic parent, like you living in the inner city, shit sucks, like that's your strength. That's
Yeah.
your strength because you're going to get out there and you're going to face people in the marketplace of ideas or services or whatever it is you choose to do with your life who didn't have to deal with that. And you're stronger for it, but you just need to process it that way. So I
Mhm.
just want to say that
No, I love
because
that.
it's so important. Um,
No. Oh,
thank you.
yes.
Sorry,
Sorry.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for your time. I really appreciate this conversation. I think there was a lot of valuable stuff discussed here, and hopefully people took value from it. And thanks to everybody for listening, for tuning into the stream. I think I'll do this live stream thing some more now. since I've popped my cherry and learned how to use StreamYard. Thanks to
Yeah.
Angela for teaching me about it. Um,
No, of course, of course.
for all my listeners, Angela, where can they go to find you if they want to follow you on the various platforms?
Yeah, you can find me under Angela Knight, KNIGHT 2.0 under Instagram or YouTube. And I'm on YouTube, Instagram, whereas at Twitter. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sweet. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Until next time, keep your minds free.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you for the super chats, everybody.
Yes, thank you. I just learned what that is. All right, we're
Oh,
out.
awesome.